My name is Pradram Fayad. I'm the SVP and General Manager of Partner Success and Methodic Growth here in Tekion. Joining me today are Jamie Fox, General Manager of our Tekion product and Senior Director, Jeremy Stoltz, one of our Directors of Product, Solutions Architect. Chad Johnson is also CFO, Autobahn, and Alex Bowsher, Your Manager, Dual Principal over at Carl Block. So thanks everybody for joining this morning. We're going to be deep diving a couple of really neat sessions. We're going to start with Tekion Pay, and then we'll talk about the accounting side of the business as well. So I'll kick it over to you, Jamie, so you can kind of start us off for a little sidebar.
Yeah, I think the thing we want to cover is really about Tekion Pay and the efficiency that it drives. And so, Alex, I don't know if you want to speak for a minute about what you use Tekion Pay for, how you increase it, and what it does for you in the front of your dealership.
Yeah, sure. I'm Alex with Carl Block Automotive. We have 4 dealerships in the Southeast, all General Motors, and we've been on Tekion for a little over 4 years. Adopted Tekion Pay pretty early, and it's been fantastic ever since. I think one of the main benefits for us is how integrated it is with our process and how well it enhances our customer experience. Previously, we had pretty outdated payment terminals for our customers to use. We didn't have the option for Apple Pay and Google Pay, etc. And with customers being able to pay via a link that we can now send them, it's really sped up our process. So not only did it modernize the front end for the customer experience, but also sped up our back end process. So our advisors now are not having to manually take an invoice and payment and put it into the process, which eliminates that ton of manual error that we previously had before. All of it is streamlined where they can click one button, connect it to a terminal, and the customer pays right there. One of the other massive benefits for us has been the back-end reporting section of it. We're able to see all of our disputes and how much each transaction flow is actually coming in for a time period. We can also refund customers directly right there, and it's really just sped up our entire process.
Yeah, I think what's really the benefit of Tekion Pay is the platform value. It's merchant services in itself is the expectation. You can process a credit card or process a bank transfer. But the biggest part is really being able to have that perfect visibility from the time you take a payment all the way to the time it hits your external bank account. And you have quick access to every piece of information you need, from the cashiering screen on the repair order all the way to when it deposits in your bank. And we're seeing efficiency. We have a group in Nevada, 7 stores. They have taken their reconciliation time down from 3 hours to 5 minutes a day. And ultimately, that equates to huge human capital value for them and time savings that they can then disperse elsewhere in their dealership.
Yeah, and it's almost kind of, a lot of times with these things, you use a lot of internal dealer kind of metrics for hey, we save speed and time. But ultimately, time is valuable to everybody, including customers, right? So we hear this a lot. You go visit with a dealer, and our customers are blown away as they remember having to wait 15 minutes to get a cashier to cash them out. So I think a lot of these external factors, right, are something that have huge net benefactor of this. We also see with Tekion Pay, obviously high workflow, high frequency is coming from service. But how has it been with sales, or how do you guys incorporate it into sales?
We use it for our entire system throughout the dealership, so parts and on the sales side, we take deposits with it. The same terminals, it's cool to have that same similar experience for a customer, whether they buy the car there, they're putting a deposit down on the car, or a down payment, they'll transact the same way they transacted service, so it's all familiar for sure. But yeah, we can use stuff like concierge. When we build a deal, we can quickly send it out to a customer. They can pay directly through there as well with a down payment. So for us, consistency has been amazing on the customer base. Stays excited. Again, for us, process-wise, the entire dealership's just familiar with how it works, and the speed has been phenomenal. The other thing that it's small, but I personally love it, is the branding piece of it too. Sure, it allows you to upload your own imagery to it, whether you want to do promotions and service, etc. There's a branding aspect to it as well, but I think it's a nice touch. Compared to what customers are used to walking into a Starbucks or whatever other X and Y business now, and that's their expectations. Have this nice, quick, easy payment flow, and now we can mirror that experience in our dealership.
It's funny, in my personal career from being in retail automotive, 7 of those years I was a general manager, and I don't think I ever thought about my merchant services as an experience or as an efficiency. It just was a very boring, basic, right? I don't even think I remember who it was, right?
You get perfect services. If it worked, you never thought about it.
Yeah, and I think the only time it ever came up was like when it was time to negotiate the rate or something, but never did we ever consider it for like the efficiency, how to create a better guest experience, branding it, which is just right. So it's really neat to see how it's all put together.
I think like one thing that, to your point, you never thought about it, because merchant services was always this thing you had to have.
Yeah.
In the industry today, there's big discussion around platforms like Tekion Pay and the value it drives. And I think the most interesting thing about it is that platforms like Tekion Pay get better when they get better over time, but it's just an easy expected thing. But we continually give you guys more ways to pay, more ways to accept beginning, and better features on something that you never thought would be this innovative feature of something you would do at your dealership, right? It just continues to deliver more value, fewer features, payment methods, ways to pay, and efficiency.
Oh, that's awesome. Yesterday, when I was hosting one of these panels, we were also talking about sometimes there's a perception that like technology is complex, right? So everyone's like, oh wow, this is really neat. It probably is late with a lot of like energy to deploy or to train. What did the experiences like when you guys deployed it? Showed everybody like, here's how you use it. Was it laborious? Was it?
It's honestly incredibly simple. We got shipped a bunch of terminals, plugged them in, go into a Tekion screen, click connect, finds the terminal, and you assign a person to it, and you're pretty much done after that. It's with Tekion, the high volumes of service, right? So the way it's all built into the RO, being able to just dance between the RO and the cashiering screen, you can quickly jump over one page over and connect to a toolbar and you're done. I mean, every option there that whether you want to put in the card manually or choose it, let's say you're, whatever reason you need to take payment across the room way over there to that terminal, you quickly select one and go do that if you need to. But no, training, everybody was up and rolling in a matter of 3 minutes. They knew how to do it and operate it. And so that's incredible. It helps. It's one less thing that is cumbersome with it for a dealer to have to walk through.
Well, the reason is because it lives inside of your cashiering workflow. Like there is no different workflow that you go to use Tekion. It is something that you're trained on from the day you launch on Tekion. You're just doing all of your transactions in the DMS instead of in a third-party system.
On the sales side, it's funny because sometimes, again, this is like a lot of the high workflows in service. But I still remember in sales, we talk about, for example, taking a down payment or maybe a deposit, and then you had to get an old receipt book. And it sounds crazy, right? I feel like I'm dating myself, but like 2017 even, there's a receipt book. You staple the receipt book, then you drop it in the safe. It was like, it sounds silly now, but think about it, right? I mean, just the fact that you have all that availability of information. If a customer calls and says, hey, look, I gave you that deposit, the traceability is so much greater than having to pick up the phone, go to the back office, hey, can you guys, I dropped the seal, a week ago, I need to see like the receipt, like, it's insane, right? Like, but for some reason that was okay.
But you'd be surprised that that's actually things that happen today.
Yeah.
For example, we take dealers on to Tekion Pay and they ticker tape, batch out each individual terminal every single time. And they send the ticker tape to accounting complex and then try to figure it out.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like, when innovation is like too fast, right? Yeah. People are still trying to figure out how to connect the dots between it. But no, I think these are all incredible. But I think, again, it demonstrates, as Jamie mentioned, when you have a true platform, these type of technologies, right, just seamlessly cut in, right? Look, however the industry continues to shape, right, that the ability to morph your native platform, whether it's December Lake, whether you're going to have payment biscuit terminals right there, and then using those links to probably morph them into future, workflows. This is really, I think, the power of technology. I think that, again, I don't believe anybody ever thought merchant services would be like this, innovative.
Maybe I did.
At the beginning, I was like, I wonder what this is going to be. And of course, I understood the concept out of tape, but I generally thought, I was like, so it's just like a prettier term? And then the more you understood it, right, and the efficiencies that it kind of gave all the way across, experience it created for both the guest family employee, right? It just was mind-blowing. It's great to hear. I mean, 30 minutes, but pull you up and running, right? And that you're not sitting and explaining to people, do this flow and do this flow. Now that some of this stuff's coming back to you, I actually think you did have like a whole written process on cashier collecting and what to do with the process of down payment processes, right? I'm sure that this probably,
Yeah.
so you experienced this well, Chad?
Yeah, everything. We're on Tekion Pay 2 as well, and everything that they said is exactly true. And just to make a point on the efficiency side of it, one of the biggest pain points in the typical third-party merchant processing has always been the reconciliation. And if you've got multiple stores, multiple cashiers, and trying to get all of that reconciled each day, going to a third-party site to see when all those payments came in and matching those up was always, and we had one person, that's all they did, right? And so this virtually eliminates that, and because it's all integrated, you've got immediate reconciliation, and so it's a huge time saver. Do they sure have this?
I don't make a lot of sense. Yeah, I think the dealer group that he's referencing, it was really neat because they ended up repurposing all the cashiers, right? So to be able to repurpose kind of non-revenue generating employees into either revenue or experience driven employees, and that's what they did. They shifted them into more kind of like customer-centric, CSI-focused teams. It's incredible. Well, really appreciate listening from you directly. A lot of times dealers want to hear from other dealers, right? We're obviously an editor of our own product, but it's always great to hear from someone who's been so successful with it. So appreciate the support and everything. I said, yeah, keep on rocking and rolling. So
What we're seeing in the market is that we are flipping the script on what merchant services is. I mean, that you can go to a bank and get the cheapest possible rate, but miss out on the value of the platform.
yeah,
The platform value is what drives your business operations, and that's what Tekion Pay does. And so,
yeah.
we continue to deliver more and more value.
That's exactly the right word, is value. And I've always told people, you either have an investment or you have an expense, right? And in this particular case, even listening to you, Chad, about the effort and time it takes to reconcile, that's human hours, right? And all these hours that are spent doing something, even if, for example, you start doing comparisons and say, hey, the rate's this, the rate's that, the ability to really understand the value that you bring is incredible. So hopefully it encourages people to look at merchant services, to your point, much more innovative way. It doesn't just do the payment collection. It's a big ecosystem. So great. We're going to dive right in. We'll jump over to Jeremy.
So one of the things that I really like see them heading that direction is watching the inefficiency that exists and getting information over to the office. Right? You said earlier, unfortunately, I think in many cases the accounting staff is really seen as a non-revenue generating team, and so you have to be very efficient, you have to be very accurate with what that team does. And so one of the very attractive, I'll steal your word, platform. One of the very attractive components to our Tekion platform is the communication element, right? The ability to not just quickly get information in terms of your postings or in documentation, but also in the kind of the off-the-cuff, the color-adding commentary, so notes, making sure it understands what's going on with this staging, whatever CIT or radar. So, Chad, talk a little bit about how the communication amendments, notes, and anything else you can think about has really enhanced the efficiency.
Yeah, so for me, it's really about the transparency of the platform and being able to see, like accounting can see into a deal, into an RO, and vice versa. So with that note feature, we're able to communicate rather than through email, right, just through the system. So when someone's in their particular area, they can see what's going on across the group. So what we really utilize this for is during our weekly asset meetings, and so that's where the accounting team and the operation team will meet and go through the aged items, and all of those aged items then have notes that are updated weekly on the status of whatever the issues are. So it just creates great communication. It's reduced all of our aged items at all of our stores on all the accounts. It's 100% customizable, so you can choose which accounts you want to measure. You can put the age buckets. What I think is an old aged unit or aged item, you might have a different criteria, so you can customize that as well. And so that's been just great from a transparency standpoint, accountability standpoint, and it's a two-way accountability. Typically accounting is pointing the finger at the operational teams as to why these items aren't collected. But now with the transparency, if for some reason accounting has made a posting error or not posted something, right, that's called out by the operations team too. So it's really just, like I said, helped with the accountability across all of the different departments to keep things clean.
To add to that, there's an extra layer of complexity that exists in stores nowadays. Physically centralized office, right? Now you have your store deal, pay for deal jackets, right? How quickly can I get those over the office to be processed, to be analyzed? How am I getting that information over to the account bonus to take and pay it as well? So, and you got a centralized office now too. So, talk a little bit about how the notes features really help out.
So we have 6 rooftops in a franchise centralized accounting office, and one of the things that we have been able to do as a result of just the platform itself and all of the digitalization of the forms is we now have a high percentage of our deals. So anything that's a new car deal without a trade, we can process a car deal without even having a deal jacket. So everything is electronically stored in the digital file for that deal, and they simply put a flag. Now, you guys have the communication flags. They've flagged the deals that are ready to, the F&I team flags the deal that's ready to post, and the accounting team simply pulls up all those filters through this deals ready to post flag, posts those without ever touching a jacket. And there's also any notes you can have inside of that deal as well, so they can communicate back and forth in a scenario in which they need something to get title work done. That's how they communicate that to the F&I team. So again, just it has reduced the amount of acre, it's reduced the processing time, creating tons of efficiencies. If it wasn't for the state and a few of their requirements, where we can put everything electronically signed, then we could have no paperwork, but still fighting through some of the governmental regulation just to prevent some of those things from happening.
It's crazy, the efficiency. We were talking about this a little earlier before we got on stage. We were like, notes and communications, for example. It was a company who basically sold this idea for $27 billion. Believe that? Just the communication platform. That little company is Slack. So you think about the efficiency, right? Because traditionally, I would imagine, I don't know what it looked like in your environment before, but we usually see either sticky notes on deals. Most people advance to like Google Sheets, right? So they're keeping some Google Sheet. Then the problem was you read the note in the Google Sheet, then you're like, well, I got to look in the deal. Then you had to hop in and look at the deal through somewhere else. What we hear a lot is just that efficiency, right? Is that the entire workflow, from the minute when it's flagged to someone reading the note, having it like right at your fingertips. You're able to click in any one of the things, whether it's schedules, whether it's deal, whether it's RO, and then you're going right to the source. You're not being hopped and then blocked.
I think one of the things too is inside of the dashboards, right? So the workflow, there's a section there where you have your unbooked deals. So you can start tracking, the deals that are stuck in different places, right? Are they stuck in the finance office? Are they stuck in the accounting office? And again, because it's on that same platform, in-long system, it's easily viewable by everybody in the dealership. That's another thing that we go over weekly with the team, right? Is that because that's cash, right? Getting those deals turns into cash quicker.
Yeah, it's so funny. That little widget is kind of like the open RO for deals. Right. And prior to that, there really wasn't much in tracking that. You just had to wait for those deals to come to the business office, and you nailed it. It's constant finger pointing.
Yep.
Right. And God forbid you were like, end of the month, right? That talks about ways not to make friends with the business office, right? Hold the deals, right? And then everybody wondered, well, how come these deals didn't make it on the books? You didn't turn it in on time. So I would say, I think just in your observation, Chad, if we put like an efficiency score, right, like pre-post, right, whether you do it like red, green, or however numerical value you want to put, like what level would you say?
Yeah, so I mean, it's gone from, well, you say it, 0 is the worst, 10 would be the best. I think we were probably at a 3 or a 4, and we're probably at an 8 or a 9 right now, right? So, and a lot of it is the system itself. Like, we still have some operational issues internally, right, that we're trying to resolve from a process standpoint, personnel standpoint. The Tekion's not perfect, but it's really good, right? There are a lot of great features that have helped us get to this point, and like envisioning adding new stores or just growing the business, right? I think that it's going to allow us to do that without adding headcount at the rate that we had to add previously under the other DMSs. And it also, the other thing is from a talent acquisition standpoint, because the platform's so easy to use, it's so intuitive, so modern. I think the training time for onboarding someone is much less than it was previously under the other DMSs as well. And it also opens up the available pool of people, because one of the things we used to ask in every interview is, have you been on CDK? Have you been on it? Right? And we don't have to ask that anymore, because they're going to learn it in 2 or 3 days, right? And everything is the same across the platform. So if you can write an RO, you can basically do a deal because everything looks and feels the same, right? So you're not having to learn different programs from different areas in the system.
Sure. So you don't need to require CDK experience.
Right.
Yes.
Things. It's we no longer ask that question. So it's opened up the poll.
That's good.
And yes, because your DNS should not be a limiting factor in who you onboard on this team.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, it's great to hear directly from the CFO the way you're thinking about growing the business, right? And from the financial lens, a lot of people, of course, probably understand employees were the biggest expense of a dealership. And so I think that how you've been able to leverage the platform so that you don't have a dependency on an existing pool, because unfortunately some of the challenges with that is you're hiring off the old mercenary pool, and everyone's like, any mercenary one, right? That was one of the challenges I used to deal with, just hire off the old existing pool. That was the challenge. And as the industry normalizes back to normal, the last 3.5 years, it's just been wild. But I can see where these things are starting to come back into play from an expansion perspective.
Like if we did hire someone outside the industry, it was embarrassing putting them in front of, the old technology. Like honestly, like see, we're out there selling how great of a company we are and how forward-thinking we are and all these opportunities that we're going to provide for them, and then we put them in front of this archaic computer screen, right? And it is a little embarrassing. So it feels good to have them in front of a modern technology and being partnered with people that really care about improving that, continually making it better and better. So that's been a win as well.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. A lot of the times when people see our UI, they think it's a report on top of the DMS, because that's what most people are accustomed to. Because usually if you have like a web app, they think like, oh, so then what does the DMS look like? I'm like, no, this is the DMS. They're like, no, but this is the reporting to the DMS. We're like, oh, it's not the reporting, it's the DMS. And so we usually get looped a little bit in that. But then when they see it, and they're like, oh, wow.
Yeah, we had a lot of people say it's too easy, right? That had been on the other platforms for so long, right? When they start using it, they're like, there has to be more steps to it, right? This can't be this easy out. So they're like, there's no more. Yeah, I'm like, no, that's it.
Now, those are great. I mean, these are all things that, of course, I think that a lot of dealers we speak to in regards to the vision of growth, obviously revolves around people, right? You can't grow your business without people. You can have all the technology in the world, but you need people and process to connect to that technology. And it sounds like you're winning, right, in that specific direction, and specifically in regards to the efficiencies of back office that is consolidated. You mentioned, I thought it was such a easy thing for you to just share, right? That the fact that like the notes, the documentation, to get coming back to the platform conversation, it's all contained, which is crazy. Yesterday, David Ish kind of presented his how he does. He's got 100% faithfulness, for example, on the sales side, even to the innovation in regards to on his CarFasts. He said, "Oh, it's great. I go to CarFast and PDF it, I upload it to DS, to the deal jackets, and boom, I've got everything that I need. And when my business office needs to look for documentation, it's all there." And I was thinking, wow, most people's perception is they're printing, then scanning, right? Because they never really thought like, well, I could just use the print to PDF and then just huffling. Right? But like these are just, I think we've been conditioned from the dealer's perspective for all these things, right, in the past. And it's really, it's rewarding to watch because unfortunately automotive has been so inefficient, right? But it's a rewarding, inefficient business, right? So that when you're starting to get the efficiency, it's exactly your report. People are like, it can't be this easy.
Yeah, no, it's very slick, and I think the other part of the auto business, right, is it has been heavily dominated from the sales side, right, not necessarily the finance or the back office side, and so all of the efficiencies and things like that have been put on the back burner and not really thought it was that important, right, because everyone's so focused on the sales side. So it's great that now everyone can see right through the transparency of the system and the notes and how everything is integrated together. That's the other thing we've been talking about, really, that we've eliminated so many third-party vendors as a result of the platform, right? And so that's another expense savings or efficiency savings, having everything on the same platform.
One thing that a lot of our controllers and CMOs talk about, even if you're at the side of 90, the ability to, so much of the documentation is just talking about a deal, pulling something up that's already programmed in his system. It just exists as the deal jacket. I have the ability to upload and add things. It doesn't just exist in the deal site. Now, Jimmy talks to this too. If you venture out into the system, vehicle inventory, I can upload everything there, right? Any pictures that I've taken through the app exist within my vehicle, and go chase that through. And so what I hear all of our CFOs talk about is there's a synergy that is actually created by the platform between all business plans that I effectively have on my roof, right? And so, the documentation is, from an accounting perspective, you have a natural quantity effect that's created by the fact that I can upload things that already exist. The RO is already there. Every single version that probably is automatically there anytime I want to go back to it. So if you can just elaborate a little bit on some of that synergy that is now existing between even other departments because of the documentation.
Yeah, sure. To your point on the entire system's all one and talks to each other. One of the areas that we saw, one of the biggest this for us was the speed of the Tekion CRM to getting into a deal. I think is another huge thing, yes. Because typically, we jump into X or Y, CRM platform and you orphan the deal with there. Now you have to go explain the entire deal structure, everything else to a sales manager, whatever that process looks like. It's always been super disconnected and time consuming. Sure. And then they have to recreate the deal when now sales manager can just peek into the CRM, see the details themselves. They can one button click and now it creates the deal. And now, like you said, you have accounting seeing everything that's going on. The vehicle then is, or that exact vehicle profile that's in your DFS with everything else is the same one that's attached directly in the CRM, so it just seamlessly comes over. It's that I think has been one of the biggest improvements process-wise that I've been more in Black Web. And like you said, you can upload or attach so much stuff together. We streamlined a lot of our upfit invoices for work trucks into Tekion. Being able to see those PDFs and have them linked there instead of having some other separate drive or saying some other thing that will grab the cost of use and reference. I think is a big one. And just to your point on, the synergy between being able to see and use the notes back and forth in accounting and the deal side, you see the same exact stuff in the communication modules that you have with the parts and service, shared with the service providers, being able to talk to technicians and parts, that whole thing flowing as seamlessly as it does. It's the areas that Tekion has been able to see benefit in one section, they don't just silo it, and that feature's nice for that one unit there. They very details and dealers' benefit is that they take what works and apply it everywhere else.
I'll add two things. There's two things that I'll add to it that just from a documentation standpoint. Number one is on the journal entry now. So we can now upload the source document to any journal entries that are waiting, which is great because now if you're researching an entry, you could go back and look at the entry and also look at the source document. So that's huge. And again, it's all on the same platform, so you're not having to go outside the system to do that. And then number two is the vendor invoices now are reviewable by the operation team. So as they're reviewing their expenses and they have a question on something, they can go in and actually look at the invoice rather than calling accounting and having accounting call beats in the invoice. So
we're just writing expenses, so we just put an entry here. What is this? All right. I think that, and I think what a great thing that you guys all benefit, of course, synergy in a dealership, right? Because, no matter how great you build the store, in some cases, unfortunately, there's divisions, right? So it's like sales against back office against service, right? But I love that you're really getting the value in a sense of bringing people together. So that's what you want. You want to have armies working cohesively with each other. But that's big kind of us. So that's awesome. I got to ask you this question. I kind of know the answer, but do you envision what if you ever had to go back, what that would look like?
Oh no, I would quit. I was retired. Yeah, I'm old enough now where I can scar. I don't back to no way.
Yeah, no, we that's what I said, I almost know that, but it's crazy when you start to really rethink about what was I doing before, right? And what you have today. In summary, I think that as everyone's mentioned, really the word has been efficiency. It's been partnerships, it's the synergy. If we were to step back and say, let's sit down and write, we're doing any business, right? We're all role, we've maximized. These are all the words that we'd like to use, but at the center of it is technology. It's really great to hear that Tekion has delivered that technology to exhaust. Awesome. We really appreciate it. Thank you both for your contributions, your support and partnership. This is what partnerships are all about, so incredible.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.